So let's start with that higher copper price and what it's doing to your projected income stream from Productora this year this year in particular.
Yeah, look, I mean, at Productora, we've got an agreement with the Chilean government agency, ANAMI, and that revenue and that mining activity and processing activity is ramping up at this stage, and we've indicated previously that we expect that to be towards its full production capacity towards mid-year of around 15,000 tonnes per month. So when we signed this deal, we were dealing with copper prices around $2.90 per pound and gold prices probably very similar to where they are. And we were projecting monthly revenues of circa 150,000 US per annum. So copper being the main commodity that is being extracted and paid on that, we're expecting that has the potential to probably add around about 60 to 70% in additional revenue from that activity. The only issue and challenge that we have is that we're not sitting in Western Australia and producing. So unfortunately, COVID has presented a very, very big challenge to not just Hot Chili's operations, but also our partners' operations. So at this stage, we're expecting that is going to be quite a significant revenue stream. But as I mentioned, when we signed this deal, it was more important the relationship that we built there with the local community and importantly the government, and that is certainly starting to really bear fruit in terms of our regulatory applications being approved and some of the recent announcements this week. So certainly we will very much enjoy a revenue stream once that production actually turns into its full 15,000 tonnes per month.
Okay, we've reported on the Australian 25 million you raised in new equity late last year that's going to fund ongoing project acquisition payments, including the 10 million early payment you made to the vendor late last year. Or sorry, that was early this year, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. We just made that payment at the beginning of this week.
Okay.
So in total, we've now paid 17 million US towards the acquisition. We have one final payment due in mid-July of 2022. So we've got a very long runway to add a significant amount of growth to Cortadera. That maiden resource we put out just in October, is already comparable in size to the only other major discovery in the global copper space in the past 6 years, which is Winu. But very exciting for the company. Really, that was a first step. And I guess when you look at the acquisition and an RIU being next week, it was exactly 2 years ago that we announced this acquisition, and that schedule of payments was something that I think that took a lot of people by surprise, and most people considered it was very ambitious. So now, in hindsight, with the success of that drilling that's gone into Cortadera, we're sitting on an acquisition that, as I said in the announcement, is sitting at less than 1 cent per pound, which has got to be one of the cheapest acquisitions in the global copper sector of recent time. And what's really exciting for us is that 1 cent per pound or 0.9 cent per pound acquisition cost is set to get dramatically cheaper as we add more resources this year. So it's quite exciting for us, and it's very exciting for a junior company such as Hot Chili to have its hands on a 100% control over a major discovery like this. One of our peers in the space, SolGold, that has done extremely well, and which we're trying to emulate their success. By comparison, they own 85% of the Cascabel project up in Ecuador.
Sure. So just to clarify, where does that latest payment leave the ownership structure here?
So we own that. We own Cortadera 100% when we make the final payment. All purchase option deals in Chile are structured that way, and that's around security of commitment on payments or expenditure commitments. So at the moment, we have a very firm purchase option. And we'll be looking to take that purchase out, in advance of mid-July. So we go to exactly 100% ownership upon that final payment. And the deals in Chile are structured in such a way that all of the leases are actually controlled by Hot Chili, and there is just one caveat that removes that, that's held by a third party. And when that final check is made, that caveat is removed. So at the moment, certainly if you look into the tenement situation in Chile, Hot Chili's name or our subsidiary is sitting over the top of that asset already.
Okay, you've also got further aggressive exploration program fully funded for this year. That includes at least a planned 40,000 metres of drilling with 3 rigs at Cortadera. As I said, that's fully funded. You've got another resource estimate, I understand, in line for Cortadera. That's due this year. Give us some more detail, if you can, on what's happening on the ground now and what's to come with that program that's been planned.
Yeah, certainly. So, Richard, I guess the 40,000 metre aggressive drill program mainly focused on the Cortadera discovery zone being expanded again. That is well underway. We commenced that in early January, following about a 3-week break for our team. And that's really the tip of the spear this year. That is where the majority of our expenditure is going. It's going into the ground and it's going into resource addition from Cortadera. We also have some exciting growth on the exploration stage. North of Cortadera, we have a very large target, which we're looking to recommence our drilling over, and that'll get underway in the coming couple of weeks. And in addition to that, there are some other exploration assets which we're bringing through, and hopefully we'll have those drill ready this year. So a lot of effort is going into the drilling. We have 1 diamond drill rig on double shift on the ground at the moment, and an RC drill rig drilling around the clock also. And we expect a 3rd drill rig to be added within the coming fortnight. So effectively, from the speed of drilling last year, which was very much hampered by COVID, we put a number of things in place and made a lot of operational improvements to allow us to more than triple the speed of drilling. And what that really means is that the news flow this year, which has just commenced a bit over a week ago, we're looking to deliver at least 2 deep diamond holes in terms of results to the market every 4 to 5 weeks this year throughout the year. And that's going to be supplemented by some growth drilling with that RC drill rig when it's not drilling deep pre-collars. So in addition to the drilling, we also have our development studies underway, and we have quite an active program of exploration going on, which we're really looking forward to talking to the market about once we have some initial results.
Can you say anything more about what's happening at the high-grade San Antonio satellite deposit at this stage? There's a maiden resource estimate coming up for that one too, isn't there?
Yeah, look, and we've really reallocated our resources and our efforts to where the biggest bang for buck is going to be for our shareholders, and that realignment meant that San Antonio and our internal work on Productora, we really looked at that as an entirety of bringing a high-grade front-end option to this combined development for the open pits. And so San Antonio has unfortunately had to be put in the back seat for a little while. But it's combined with the Productora assessment, and we're looking to deliver a high-grade inventory or satellite inventory probably around mid-year at this stage. There's unfortunately a lot of competing things that we're doing, and San Antonio, given the scale, we're not really looking to make a big splash by adding a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 million ton high-grade satellite at plus 1%, when our drill holes are turning up multi-100 metre intercepts and high-grade sections, of the ilk of 200 and 300 metres on the high-grade core at Cortadera. So our metal add and our effort is probably best spent where we're getting quite a dramatic impact from for our dollar, but certainly San Antonio has not been forgotten about, and we'll be making some announcements in relation to how we're rationalising all of those regional projects and how they're going to fit in. So we'll be talking about that in the coming month also.
Okay, you mentioned comparisons that have been made between Costa Fugo's initial 724 million tonnes at 0.48% copper equivalent with Rio Tinto's 503 million tonnes at 0.45% copper equivalent at Winu in Western Australia, among other emerging projects, deposits around the world. Can you give us a bit more insight into that comparison? And perhaps what does Costa Fugo have that maybe that Winu doesn't have at this stage?
Yeah, well, look, I guess it's always very flattering when S&P Global record Winu and Cortadera as the only two major copper discoveries globally in the past 6 years, really since Kamoa and Kukula from Robert Friedland were discovered back in 2014. So, you know, we're certainly sitting in a very good pedigree. As you well know, we've pushed Cortadera in the same timeframes as the Winu discovery. For a fraction of the cost and for really a very, very good bang for buck, slightly ahead on grade from Rio Tinto's Winu discovery. Look, I personally believe both discoveries have got a long way to go, and the guys at Rio Tinto are doing an excellent job at really turning that into something that potentially will get to a tier one. But at this stage, the comparison is very similar on a grade basis as a bulk tonnage copper discovery. But when you look at the detail, you know, clearly Cortadera is coming out, you know, a little bit head and shoulders above Winu. We don't have 90 meters of desert to remove to get to the deposit. So when you look at that makes a very dramatic impact on reducing our pre-strip capital requirements on Cortadera. And in fact, all of our deposits go through to surface and have very low strip ratios. So we're not sitting 350 kilometres from Port Hedland. We're sitting 50 kilometres from port on the Pan American Highway by comparison. So our infrastructure advantage that we have in relation to Winu is really, you know, night and day in comparison. And in addition, we believe that the combined approach of joining Cortadera and Productora together and other assets within the grouping offers us a significant amount of flexibility on how we develop and how we actually stage this large development so that we can maximize value and minimize all of the risks associated with that. So certainly the two discoveries are occurring at the same time. They're very similar size and very similar grade. But undoubtedly, Cortadera has benefited from a very long investment in already having Productora and having that really unique infrastructure and location base in which we can leverage off.
You've also talked about the potential hub development approach at your project, similar to Tech Newmont's Nuevo Union project in Chile. Why is that a good analogy?
Yeah, look, I think that, you know, Nuevo Union, you had Tech with their Relincho asset and Newmont with their El Morro asset. The two copper gold deposits are about sort of 40 to 45 kilometres apart. They're at around 3,000 to 4,000 metres altitude. So they're not sub 1,000 metre altitude on the coastline. So that's important. And I guess when you look at those two deposits, that was really a very similar concept to what we had and what we'd been building for 2 years while I was trying to secure a deal to get Cortadera. The advantage of Cortadera and Productora is that they are a lot closer than the Nuevo Union projects and that combination of Relincho and El Morro. The two deposits are 14 kilometres apart at low altitude, very similar grade and similar size. And what was really, we thought was quite innovative of Tech Newmont was their approach on transport of ore between the two deposits to a central processing facility. And they were doing that by conveyor. We haven't determined whether conveyor is the cheapest methodology, but certainly when you look at altitude and you look at distance and you look at grade, there's no better comparison to look at in terms of our approach to developing a hub to what Tech and Newmont are doing about 150 kilometres up into the Andes from where Costa Fuego sits on the coastline.
You've talked about the potential for Cortadera to develop into one of the rare tier one copper deposits and projects in the world. You've done a lot of the heavy lifting for a small company already to build towards that. But how much time, how much work do you see realistically is ahead for this project to develop further and attain that sort of status?
Yeah, look, I think we're in a very unique position with Cortadera where we're a junior taking this discovery forward. So we're not taking it forward as aggressively as Rio Tinto. We don't have, our pockets aren't that deep or as deep as Rio Tinto's. So we're still actually in the infancy stage of this discovery. And that means that large growth comes quickly in the beginning of any major discovery. We're sitting at about 3 million tonnes of copper and 3 million ounces of gold. So our target is really to get this combined Costa Fuego project over the 5 million tonne copper mark, contained copper metal mark. And that puts us into the definition of a true global tier one copper deposit. So you're moving into the plus $50 billion in-ground value club. And as you're well aware, there are very, very few companies that aren't majors that hold assets like that. So in the analysis that we did in terms of how this sits in the pecking order, we're already by far the largest ASX copper resource. And certainly we're sitting in a league where this part of the copper space is dominated by the North Americans. So we require another roughly 2 million tonnes of contained copper metal. Look, we're going to be shooting for that very aggressively. And what's very exciting for us this year is we have not started testing that depths component of Cortadera. This thing is open-ended at depth. It's open-ended in a lot of its lateral extents, but more importantly, when you have a over 1 kilometre vertical ore column that has a high-grade core the size that is evident in Quepo 3, we can grow this thing quite rapidly. We have not tested that magical zone at around 1,000 metres that made Alpala and the Cascabel project by SolGold what it is today. And that's really where those fingers of that porphyry turned into a hand. We've got all the indications that a similar thing may be possible at Cortadera, and we will be putting a lot of money into 6 or 7 or 8 very deep holes underneath Quepo 2 and Quepo 3, and seeing whether this discovery really turns into something a lot larger in a very short period of time frame. So it's a very exciting year for Hot Chili this year, and it's great to have the Treasury finally actually put our shoulder to the wheel on Cortadera this year.
Excellent. I think we'll leave it at that. Best of luck for what is definitely shaping as a very big year for the company.